Hi, everybody. What's going on? Hello, it's Roz McCarthy here. I'm here with Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and we are celebrating August and all the special Leos out there. Happy birthday to all my Leos. You are now tied into MProcure. MProcure is our supplier diversity program focused on the cannabis and hemp industry. We believe that individuals and businesses have an opportunity to really be able to grow economically through being through contracts and through procurement. And cannabis is no different than any other industry. There's so many opportunities. So what I need you to do is stop, share this, go share this. This is going to be such an impactful conversation today. I have some amazing guests who are going to spit it down for you to let you know what's going on and why does MBE certification matter, what you should be thinking about. You like my hat, guys? Listen, I'm just getting back from vacation. I was in the Virgin Islands and I am so hyped. We took a little 2-month hiatus, but we're back. First Friday, every Friday. Every first Friday of the month, we will be here live talking about things very connected to supplier diversity. I want to give a shout out to True Leave. 2 weeks ago, before my vacation, we had our very first buyers matchmaking event. It was spectacular. I want to encourage you, if you are looking to go after contracts and you are a minority supplier, stay tuned and make sure you sign up and get connected with us because we are going to be matchmaking you with businesses, cannabis businesses who are looking to contract with you. So without further ado, let me bring up my first guest. I got Mr. Brian Martin. Hello. Hey, friend.
Hey, Roz. Hey. Loving that hat.
Thank you. How are you?
I am well. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's so good to see your face. For you guys that don't know, Brian Martin is our Nevada co-state director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. He is a prolific supplier diversity specialist, consultant that has worked in this industry for years and is going to be bringing just so much information and value to this conversation today. And then our second guest, who is a great friend of Brian, who, like, I got a 2-for-1 because I was going to do just Brian and I just going through this. But when he told me that he has this young lady, her name is Miss Tanya Eisley, and let me bring her in. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So happy to see you. Tanya Eisley is the publisher of the largest supplier diversity magazine focused on minority business enterprises. And we're so excited to have her with the MBE magazine. We're going to be talking about an MBE. What does that stand for? What does it mean? Why is it important? And so before we get into the scoop of it, Brian, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, and how all this ties into you from a passion perspective.
Sure. And thank you for that gracious introduction. And hey, Tanya, always good to be in your company. You're right. Tanya and I have been friends for 35 years, so I'm aging us both. But my career stems back about 35 years in traditional operations, leadership training, procurement, vendor management in the telecom, travel, and primarily hospitality industry. And several years ago, I got into what was then called, diversity, which quickly became diversity and inclusion, and which is now, DEI. And as a subset of that, supplier diversity was born. And that was, understanding that there were mandates and requirements that companies had to engage and do business with diverse suppliers. And to your point, you mentioned MBE, there's also WBE for women-owned businesses.
Yes.
LGBTQ certification and veteran certification. So there's 4 certifications of diverse suppliers that companies are encouraged and incentivized to do business with. And they actually have goals in many industries where an allocated portion of their expenditures have to go to diverse suppliers. So that is one of the benefits and little known secrets of achieving the certification. It is what I call it, puts you in that rare air space where now the challenge becomes flexing your business to meet the needs of those suppliers because you're coming with that certification, which gives you a certain level of credibility and shows that you've committed to your business and you have this certifying organization standing behind you and vetting your business. So that is quickly became a passion for me in helping to kind of plug the dots and helping suppliers understand the needs of the business and navigate and leverage those certifications to maximize their business.
Man, that is so impactful. I mean, you took the whole entire why supplier diversity matters, why there's different certification for different groups, and why that is the engine that runs our economy, that runs, that's going to help us, especially come out of a recession where we are right now. You really nailed all that in a very small package. And so, Ms. Tanya, please share with everyone your background, how did you get into this industry, and more importantly, talk about the magazine and exactly, who's that audience and why. I mean, and who's reading it, who's putting eyeballs onto the magazine, and why.
So yeah, I actually am a journalist by birth and training, who took a little detour into supplier diversity about 15 years ago. And I started out with MBE magazine as a managing editor. And when the publisher decided to retire, I said, you know what? I don't want to see the magazine die because I believe in its mission and its purpose. So I decided to buy the magazine and took over from there. And what we do is we tell the stories of those minority and women-owned businesses who are often overlooked and marginalized by mainstream publications, just by mainstream media in general. And we also provide them resources through our publication in terms of information and knowledge to help them grow their business and also learn more about certification. So then they can see the benefits of it and how they can grow. We work a lot with NMSDC, which is the National Minority Supply Development Council, the WeBank, which is a Women Business Enterprise National Council, and sort of working with their audiences or their certified businesses to give them the information. We don't just, our audience is not just made up of certified businesses. And the reason for that, Roz, is because there are people who are business owners that may not know about certification. They may not know the benefits of certification. So my job as a publisher is to make them aware. So we also, like I said, we give them that information. Here's how to get certified. Here are the benefits of it. We're just going to be launching a podcast that'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to discuss all of those issues. And we'll have professionals on there to talk about getting certified. What are the steps to it? What are the benefits? So
That's fantastic. So let's get into it a little bit, and I want you and Brian to really kind of, again, feed off of kind of where my questions are going, and share from your perspective. When you talk about certification, can you share with our audience, again, the value of having that certification, and how and what that process looks like? Is it at the state level? Is it at the federal level? Is it both? Can I have multiple certifications? Why is that important? And then we're going to talk about why that's important to cannabis as well. But I would love for your feedback.
Okay. I'll start. So to answer your question, there's NMSDC, the National Minority Supply Diversity Council, has regional offices. So based on your state and where you are geographically is the subset of that organization that you would get your certification through, and it is honored at the national level. And I believe the same for the WeBank affiliates and also NGLCC. So you would align with your local affiliate, and Tanya and I can help direct you, and then go through the process. There's 3 primary requirements to achieving certification for all of them, all of the organizations, and that is at least 51% owner and making decisions of the business, a U.S. citizen, and you have to submit your tax records. And that always scares people, but I like to let people know that it's not an evaluative tax review, because we don't like showing our financials, but it's really more for confirmation that your business exists and that it's registered properly with the IRS. They're not looking to see, how much money you have in your account and what you may owe, or, any of that stuff. And those are the 3 primary requirements. And there's a fee, and, somewhere I'm guessing $300 or $400. I think it varies by region. And then they do a site visit, and you go through the process. And then once you achieve it, it's the knowledge of knowing that there are tons and tons of companies out there looking to engage with diverse suppliers. And now it becomes, how do I make my capability statement, develop relationships and make the introductions, to find out where the needs and the opportunities are, and then how do I best present myself as a diverse supplier? And Tanya, feel free to jump in and add to that.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that about certification basically lets them know that you are who you say you are.
Right.
If you say you're a minority, your business, you have to prove that your business is 51% owned, at least owned by a minority. It is basically, like I said, saying, proving that you are. In terms of benefits, the most important thing is certification gives you access. It gives you that access to those top purchasing agents in these corporations. It gives you access to these premium business networking opportunities. And it gives you access to not only networking with corporations, but networking with other business owners. I went through a program, an executive education program with WeBank, which I'm certified through. It's called We Thrive. And I got to network with a lot of other business owners, and we bounce a lot of ideas off of each other. They give you contacts to people at these corporations that you may not know. You know,
Yes.
they need to go through this purchasing agent. They'll say, no, this is the person you need to contact. But you all belong to this organization, or you're certified through this body. So you have access to each other as well. So like I said, the access that you want. And it can be a daunting process going through certification, but it's worth it. And like Brian said, they aren't trying to see, how much money they want, how much money you make. But if you are diligent about going through certification, they also know that you're diligent about your business.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say, Tanya. This is a way. See, y'all need to keep it real on what's going on and understanding that when you're working with corporations, and again, they, sometimes they tend to pick suppliers that they already have a relationship with. When you're new and they don't have that relationship, this gives you an opportunity to say that I've gone through the vetting process, so you don't have to try to get to know me, because I've already hit the threshold of what my state is looking for to say that I'm ready to do business. I call it contract ready, right?
Yep.
And you'll be surprised how sometimes if you not contract ready, or I'm sorry, if you're not prepared for certification, going through that process and getting prepared, it's like it's a blessing in disguise, because now if you didn't have your taxes done, now they're done, and
Right.
you know what I mean. So there's such a win in going through that process, right?
It is. And I think they were intentional in designing it that way, Rosin. And to your point, like the youngsters say, I call it, that's your receipts.
That's right.
My business is, an LGBTQ certified business. I knew strategically there weren't a lot of men that look like me, that presented like me in that space. So that's adds a lot of value, because I'm able to now show up and be like, these are my services. And, in an audience that, has a lived experience like mine, but they certainly don't look like me, right? So it's all about showing differently and presenting yourself where the opportunities are.
Can you guys talk about, we know this, I know my experience prior to coming into M4MM was on federal contracting. So before we start going into cannabis and hemp and on the private side, how long have we seen our federal government look at, well, we know our federal government is the biggest buyer of supply and services in the whole entire world, right? And the opportunity there is astronomical. Can we talk about just the history of procurement and supplier diversity, and how there's been these, I don't want to call it set aside, but there are certain certifications that they have benchmarks that are set at the federal level.
Right. You're right, Roz. And for instance, and I believe the threshold is $100,000 to kind of keep me honest here. Any company that receives, I think, $100,000 plus in subsidies or some type of category of funding support from the government requires the company to have supply diversity mandates, which means that a percentage of your expenditures, for instance, in my previous life, I ran the supply diversity program for Publicis Communications. It's the third largest communications company in the world out of Paris, and I had Publicis Health. So I had all the pharmaceutical accounts, and you're talking budgets that are $40 and $50 million in advertising. So to know that 20% of that off the top, my job was to find diverse suppliers in those qualified categories to allocate that production spend to. And they always want to go for the high ticket items, but there's so much downstream opportunity to tap into. And there's just early opportunities to partner with other providers and get in there and make an impact based on where the opportunities are.
When you were in that position, was it easy to find those those suppliers that were certified? Were you able to rift off if they weren't certified and try to figure out how to get them certified? What was the breadth and depth of your position, and how you were trying to be a facilitator to get people in the door? Because sometimes that could be so hard in trying to get us in the door, right?
That is an excellent question. And so my job was twofold. It was, supporting the needs of the initiative to make sure that we met our mandates, but also telling the story to our clients, because it's not just numbers, they want outcomes. What category did this spend go to? Are there any joint ventures? How's your ship going. So to your point about the supplier support side, that was just as important. Educating suppliers on the benefits of getting certified, kind of being their stewardship and guide through that, but then helping them to, as I mentioned earlier, with their capability statement, their readiness statement, their pitch, making sure, because we get one shot if we're lucky to get that, right? So, there's certain things, because we have the relationship with the procurement and the buyers, we can kind of nuance the messaging and really be that conduit, but constantly providing education, mentoring, and support to those suppliers, because it's fearful and there are some no's and it's a bit of a number. So the conventional rules of business and marketing still apply. But now you just have this extra tool that can be of incredible value if you leverage it properly. And my team, our goal was to always impart that knowledge. And when you find somebody and nurture them along the process and their presentation ready, you're able to go back to those prime buyers and talk about the progress and whether this particular supplier business has started and where they are now in their journey. And it just makes them more presentation ready and appealing to the buyer.
So Tanya, you can piggyback on top of that, because then if he's having suppliers that have this impact or that have been able to either build their capacity, grow their business based upon opportunities of contracting, it sounds like with your magazine, you're highlighting these businesses. I think sometimes in our community, we need to see the stories and hear other people that have already been successful and how they did it, so that we can go, okay, I could do that too, right?
Absolutely. And that is one of the main things that we do. We like to show other people what other people are doing. We like to have stories of those entrepreneurs and small business owners and medium-sized business owners who are doing some outstanding things through supplier diversity, whether they've gotten large contracts or just consistently gotten smaller contracts, but they've been able to grow.
Yes.
And I want to say this about supplier diversity. We talk a lot about how it benefits the suppliers, but also supplier diversity benefits these corporations as well.
Yes, ma'am.
If your market is Black and brown, then your supplier base needs to reflect that market. Who else can speak to your market than people who are Black and brown?
Mm.
That has always been for me the business case for supply diversity. But back to your point, yeah, it is important to show those stories and to tell those stories, because again, Roz, who else is going to tell the stories if we don't tell them? Entrepreneur's not going to do it. Success Magazine isn't going to tell their stories.
That's right.
I take it upon me. Okay, that's my job, is to find these people and tell their stories. And hopefully by telling those stories, it's inspiring somebody else, but also it's encouraging other corporations to work with that business.
Now, is MBE magazine, are you print and digital? How's your format, and how's that? And talk about the frequency and how often you come out. And even, I know Brian is going to be one of those story contributors. Like, how do people have that opportunity to tell their stories or get that story in front of you?
Absolutely. We are published quarterly, 4 times a year. We have a fall issue, winter, spring, and summer issue, but we are digital first. We just converted to digital first. So everything goes online first. Those stories that are really big, we're going to start putting in the print issue. We did that simply because printing costs a soaring.
Yes.
And we also realized that most of our audience is really online.
Yes.
And a larger audience online and get more information out quicker to more people. Our website is mbemag.com. You can go there and you can subscribe to our print magazine. If you have an idea, you can send it to me at Eisley, TISLEY, at mbemag.com. I'm always looking for stories to tell. I'm always looking for story ideas. You may have a unique angle about something that's going on. Maybe it's how to get financing or something like that. I'll assign it to a writer and you can work on the story together. Brian has written for us. He's done some profiles for us. So yeah, like I said, we not only highlight those entrepreneur stories, but we also want to give them resources. Everybody can use some business advice. We just did a college wealth building. So it's that type of thing. We want to grow their businesses and succeed as well.
So, in the cannabis industry, as this is why we're here, MProcure is specifically focused on the cannabis and hemp industry. One of the number one challenges is access to capital for operators who are touching plant. And and I tell people all the time in the industry, they're like, well, access to capital is an issue in cannabis. I was like, listen, for Black people, it's been access to capital has been an issue. I don't care if it's cannabis, hemp, or whatever it is. So this is not our first rodeo. I would love, Brian and Tanya, if you could talk to, even the importance of resources, even when someone's not ready for certification, when they're trying to build capacity. What do you do to support that? And I know access to capital is one of those number one opportunities where we need more support.
For me in my private business, I've experienced it myself, and it's thinking strategically, finding out where the resources are. But from a readiness perspective, I am constantly directing people to, CDFIs and different funding sources that are available in their local areas. And again, always encouraging them to find ways to nuance and massage their business offerings so that they're a little bit different and they have a competitive advantage. And they're just showing up in a way that makes them stand out and be appealing to these funding sources, and to also tell their story in a way that speaks to their sustainability and their ability to live those financial obligations that are downstream after they secure this funding. So it's really, for me, connecting people to resources, but also that education on preparedness and understanding the application process so that you are prepared to be successful in that journey, but also on the back end, making sure that you've done everything possible to be prepared to live up to those expectations and be successful in leveraging that capital to get what you want or to achieve the goal.
Yes. Tanya, your thoughts as well?
You know what? I read a lot. I don't purport to know a lot about cannabis financing. What I do know, financing for the industry, as much as what I can see, has always gone to people who don't look like us.
Yes.
That is a significant barrier to point of entry.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to make sure as we get new people come on board here, I have Tanya Eisley, the publisher of MBE magazine, Minority Business Enterprises, what MBE stands for. We have Brian Martin here, who is a supplier diversity expert, consultant, strategist in regards to, he's worked with those public companies. He's been there in the desk looking for certified businesses. And what we're doing today is correlating certification and why it matters to the cannabis and hemp industry. Because, guys, there's millions of dollars in supplier contracts out there that we are missing the boat on. And we're trying to fix that. We want to educate you. So I encourage you to share this, because we have to be dialed into how do we make a difference? How do we stay connected? How do we prepare ourselves to be contract ready in this whole new environment? So, Brian, I guess one of my questions for you is, have you had an instance where maybe a firm has come to you and, they're certified or what have you, their scope of work, their capability statement says one thing, however, you've been able to maybe create an opportunity or show them there's other opportunities they can pursue in order to go after the business? Because sometimes we walk in thinking, well, this is all I'm going to do. I think it's important to talk about flexibility when it comes to going after opportunities.
You're so right, Roz. And, I think we are all multi-skilled, and I think our businesses often have the capacity to be fluid and to expand. And that conversation typically starts with us having a clear understanding of what the buyer and the procurement team is looking for. And, to your point, somebody can be very close, but not meet some of the key needs of that business. So what we would often say is, who can you partner with? Joint ventures and partnerships are really, really effective. And then you might even partner with an entity and organization that, may fit another diversity category. So there's different ways. And then looking at your internal skill set and service offerings and figure out, based on what the needs are, is there a small part of our business that we can flex and massage to be competitive for this piece of the business? And then introduce ourselves, and as more opportunities come along that aligns more with our core competencies, but also understanding that a small piece of something that you can grow and develop is better than nothing. So while you may not be able to go in with what your initial plan was, if there's an entry point and you can flex your services, I'm always a proponent of that.
Flexibility is, I think flexibility is key, and getting one foot in the door. We want we all want us to get the $2.5 million contract, the $250,000 contract, but that foot in the door for that $25,000 contract, that $5,000 contract, you showing past performance could be the difference between where you are this year versus next year, where you may have that $500,000 contract. And I think flexibility is so critical when you guys are looking to, I think we need to ask what are your needs are right now. And I know, what Tanya, you have, I'm sure the magazine, you are focused on those businesses, but don't you also have different corporations who might also participate in the magazine? Because they want the public to know, and they want you suppliers to know that we want to do business with you, right?
Absolutely. And I want to share one more thing about getting in the door, because what people need to understand, those big multi-million-dollar or $100,000 contracts are usually awarded to suppliers that have existing established relationships with those corporations. So they've been with them for a while. So when you get in there, you establish that relationship, keep massaging that relationship, do some, work with them in terms of some mentoring and development, and eventually you'll get there. But yes, we work with a lot of corporations, and that's where we, like, our advertising dollars come from corporations who want people to know these are the opportunities that we have, these are the suppliers we're looking for, and this is how you can do business with us. There are a lot of corporations out there like that. There are tons of them. You just have to find them, and joining these these certifying bodies like NMSDC, WeBank, gives you access to those contact numbers. They have a database with full of the information for you to contact the people. And then what I tell people is, or what I do is, I find out who the contact person is, establish that relationship on LinkedIn. Sometimes I may email them some pertinent information about their business. If I see they've achieved something, maybe they won an award. Hey, congratulations, I see you got an award for this, blah, blah, blah. And you keep that going. I may not get any business for a year, but the next year they know who I am.
Absolutely.
And I want to jump on another point, Roz, that you mentioned, getting that small $25,000 contract and you successfully executing on it. You've established that relationship, and now that big name client becomes a part of your capability statement. So you've now added another level of credibility when you go present yourself to their competitor or a like-sized company. More credibility comes your way. And also, much like, your amazing MProcure vendor database, get on there and register and highlight your services, tell your story, because to Tanya's point, the procurement people know the supplier diversity people to go to. So if it's something cannabis specific, I would naturally go to Roz and say, hey, who do you know in this space? And she's going to go to for MM database and find her registered suppliers that are there. And that's, again, you're now referred to with an entity that has credibility and an investment in this space. And that gives you a little bit more leverage.
Man, and let me just add on top of the ands, and our database is free. You don't have to pay to be in the database. It gives you an opportunity to flex and tell what you can and what you cannot do. And also, your ability to be able to have a brand like M for MM, where you don't have to start from scratch. Like, we have that brand, folks know our brand and brand recognition with these different cannabis companies. And I will tell you, in the cannabis industry, it is me too. If Curaleaf has you as a supplier and you are a supplier for them, and you can go flex to TrueLeaf and say, hey, I'm currently working with TrueLeaf, I would love to be able to supply this for you, and keep going down the line, before you know it, it really is a building block, right? You go from you start from the ground up and you continue to build. It is not, it's not an overnight success. Sometimes it happens, but it's not overnight. Can we talk about also the power of identifying current suppliers who would currently have maybe large multi-million-dollar contracts, and being able to market ourselves to those suppliers as a potential second tier?
Yes, absolutely. And that is an excellent entry point, because there's always an opportunity for someone to subcontract some work out to a diverse supplier to meet a particular need of the business. That happens a lot in the advertising and pharmaceutical space, because a lot of these agencies just don't even want to allocate what they would consider the resources and the small budgets to execute on those small asks. which to us are really big projects, right? So there's what I call a throwaway work for some that is really impactful and valuable work for smaller businesses like us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, as we're bringing all this together, we're talking about supplier diversity. We talked about MBE, but I want to really give some time and attention to talk about, if people haven't heard, you have MBE, which means so my certification was minority business enterprise and a women-owned business enterprise. But I want to also understand about the LGBTQ community and the strides that have been made. Because some people will say, well, that's different than MBE and it shouldn't be in the same box. And I would love to hear your thoughts on how do how do those different certifications, how they can coexist together, and how the LGBTQ community also needs to have appropriate certification to be able to go after opportunities.
Absolutely. I mean, oppression and marginalization as people of color, it's a part of our daily existence. And there's some intersections that the LGBTQ plus community faces too. So from a business need perspective, most of the companies that are in the Fortune 100, are very pro-equality and are leaning into LGBTQ rights. So personal feelings aside, there's some dedicated and successful entrepreneurs that are LGBTQ plus. So businesses are not stupid in knowing that there's a tremendous amount of talent out there, a committed workforce, and a very activated voter bloc. So let's not sleep on that, right?
That's right.
Charge. So those intersections all mean something. And one of the things that I would constantly, when I was presenting to Pfizer and Merck on behalf of our company, they wouldn't allow us to have all of our spend in the minority box. Where's your outreach and engagement in women? So that meant bringing in WeBank. NGLCC, which is the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, is the national body certifying body for LGBTQ plus people, and their affiliate offices, that line item carries just as much weight when you're doing quarterly and annual spend reports.
Yes.
Client, they're all on par with each other. So it's a recognized body, and they're incredibly organized and growing really quickly. And Tanya, feel free to add anything.
And guess how nice would it be if you have someone that can check off all three of those boxes, right? And then be a veteran and we haven't talked about veteran, and shout out to our veterans, our service disabled veterans.
Yes.
And again, all of that matters because our corporations, if you're on NASDAQ, there is a responsibility that you have to be able to share your ESG report, and ESG, that opportunity, that reporting mechanism can tie directly back into supplier diversity and those opportunities. And they're looking at certifications across the board. Tanya, your thoughts, on that topic of the LGBTQ plus community and just the variations of certifications.
Well, listen, I think, and you brought up a good point. As many boxes as you can check off, check them off. And with every diverse community, 2 years ago, there was a big push after George Floyd for all these corporations. They were going to do this, they were going to do that. Remember the black squares?
Yes.
Now is the time to hold them accountable.
Yes.
Whatever box you're checking off, when you approach them, look at what they've promised and you go back, you know what? I remember when you posted this or you said this, your CEO put out this statement. Well, I'm here. I check off this box. I check off this box. I check off this box.
That's right.
And I don't go to them and say, I want to be a supplier. Let's partner.
Yes.
I'm going to be your partner.
Right.
So this is how we can do this for you to what you said.
Tanya, you really said something that just struck me just right then and there. You're absolutely right. Talk about the difference between coming to the table as a supplier or coming to the table as a partner. And even the change of that one word changes the mentality of the person that you're talking to. Share about that.
The first change that you have to change your mentality, because if you're going in as a supplier, if you're going in thinking I'm going to be a supplier, I'm just giving you a service or I'm just giving you a product. If you're going in thinking I'm going to partner with you, we're on the same level.
That's right.
I'm just as smart, I'm just as qualified as you are. You need me as much as I need you.
That's right. That's right. And the thing about it is, and it didn't mean to interrupt you, Brian. The thing about it is they're going to spend the money anyways.
Exactly.
So it's not like you asking for something that they weren't already budgeting to do.
Right.
And it's going to be spent anyways. But the person who makes the decision, how do you get them to take a chance with you and to do business with you? And I think the use of that word from supplier to partner So you are a partner in the supplier diversity or in the supplier, what do you call it? Supplier, not exchange, but I can't think of my word, but you are that partner in that whole entire process versus I just want to be a supplier. Like, you are someone that is really showing how I'm going to leverage what I do best to not only service you, but also to make you look good.
Absolutely. Going to bring value to your business. That's
absolutely.
I'm
here to bring value to you. I'm not here to just hang your product or hang your service. I'm here to bring value to your business just as you're here to bring value to mine. So if you step to the stage to do something, I'm stepping there with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tanya, tell them.
So is there, Brian, are there tools out there? A lot of times people think that if their price isn't the lowest, they're not going to get this opportunity. Can you speak about that? How, you don't have to price yourself so low that you can't even make a living and be able to turn a profit, because they do realize that you are a business, but also don't price yourself. And I call this in cannabis, we have a cannabis pricing and the cannabis tax, where people think if I'm going to come in so super high, what you're going to do is you're going to irk somebody. They're not going to want to do business with you. So there is an area where you need to kind of figure out where your rates are and making sure that you are in line. And if you try to put that cannabis tax where you're figuring, okay, I'm going to just ask for the moon because they need, because it's cannabis and they're making all this money, that's the wrong thing to do, because that will quickly get you and your business kicked out of that flow.
Right. And I'm not totally familiar yet with all the nuances as it relates to the cannabis business, but what I will tell you in the general industry, when we were evaluating providers, price was never really the issue, because to your point, the budgets were pre-allocated. They know how much they have allocated to spend on these projects. So I think in my mind, it's always good to go in having done research on what the budget is for that particular item, what the comps are for your competitors. They are not expecting you to come in and be sub-priced, because they are not expecting sub-outcomes and sub-product. So price product and services fairly, price it as though you are in a for-profit business, with the understanding that you're doing business with an organization, to your point, that is aware of that. And understand, keeping in mind that you're wanting to grow this relationship. So there may be some concessions on discount, maybe for volume, or if they add more service offerings. You'd be really creative, but also be mindful of your profit and loss margin to ensure that you're protecting your business and that you're making money, because they need for you to be successful, for you to continue to be their partner in this ongoing relationship.
Absolutely. I think that the key part about that is that you have a business. Do not price yourself so low that you think that's the way that you have to get a contract. And it's okay to walk away from an opportunity if you have to, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You can still walk away and keep a friend, and even position yourself for a better opportunity down the road, because it's okay to say, based on this scope of work, I can't meet these services, this request now. Maybe I can in the future, or this just isn't what I do, but here's somebody that I highly recommend who is. So there are ways to nurture and still develop those relationships without achieving, or taking on the business.
Absolutely. Is there any advice that you would want to give people when it comes to their capability statement and how to put that together?
Wow, I'm gonna punt that right over to Tanya, because that is right in her wheelhouse.
Be honest about who you are. Yeah. And what do I mean by that? Don't say you can do a service or you have a product that you don't have. Mm-hmm. Put together stuff that speaks to who you are. Be honest about it and put your best foot forward. Don't be afraid to brag on yourself,
right,
and your capability. If you've done some outstanding things, say you've done some outstanding things. I think a lot of us, particularly as minorities, have been taught or raised to play small.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you said a word.
It's not brag about what we've done. Well, you know what? Nothing. Yes, it was. It was. And tell your story. That's key. Tell your story. How did you start? Because one of the things I tell people a lot about capabilities and just presenting themselves, period. Don't just talk about what you do. Talk about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Act with who you are and your story. Anybody can have the same benefits or the same features, but it's who you are that will set you apart.
What makes you different from your competitors? And to Tanya's point, include your outcomes, include your results, include your successes. They matter, and although they may be small to you, they're achievements. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are super excited about the work that we're doing over here at M4MM with MProcure. We're going to be tagged into Tanya in the MBE magazine. You guys have it right there on the screen, www.mbemag.com. It's a digital quarterly magazine that comes out. If you have a story, an idea, anything of that nature that you want to share, we want to encourage you to reach out to Tanya Eisley at mbemag.com. We have to continue this dialogue. Make sure you're prepared. We're going to transfer the skill set that you have seen in corporate America and federal government on contractors and being able to be in the supply chain from a diverse contractor perspective. And we're going to talk about this and be very intentional on the cannabis and hemp side. I mentioned to you about TrueLeaf in our first buyer matchmaking event that took place 2 weeks ago. We're doing more of those. And I'm excited to share with you guys some awesome news that Mr. Brian Martin has agreed to come on as our director for MProcure with Minorities for Medical Marijuana. And so I cannot wait. As you can see, he knows what he's talking about. He has experience. He has passion. He wants to see us win. He is someone that proudly comes from the LGBTQ plus community. He's a Black man. He don't shy away. When I tell you, this is like he is my spirit animal. I promise you, he is my spirit animal. He delights me every time I'm in his presence, and he's going to be working with us so that we can make sure that we move this ball down the field in such an impactful way. And so, Brian, thank you so much for honoring, for supporting us, and walking into this opportunity, because we're going to be of service to so many people.
Well, Roz, I adore you, and I rock with you all the way, and you feed my every time I get to engage with you. So I just thank you, and thank you to the M4MM team. I'm so excited around this. I've seen the oppressive tactics and the money grab and all the things that have happened here in Nevada with the so-called, party of family values and all the things that they've done to stop us from having opportunities in this space. So I am absolutely committed to finding every opportunity, creating programs, and finding pathways, but also holding people accountable and moving the needle on the legislative front to make sure that we have a seat at the table and we're having some great outcomes. So let's get it.
Let's get it. We're going to have more conversation, more information. You're going to catch Brian every first Friday of the month. He's going to have impactful guests. He's going to be talking to policymakers, talking to the industry heads, telling them about, when I tell you the opportunity that's going to be presented, not only for him personally because of his skill set, but also to represent our organization and to represent communities of color and people that have been marginalized, that are coming from our veteran community, our LGBTQ plus community. Is going to be something of blissfulness. And I'm so incredibly just honored to have you on the team. Tanya, you're welcome to come back anytime, girl. This is how we do it. Every first Friday of the month, we are being intentional about moving the needle down, and moving the ball down the field.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. And Roz, I want you to keep in touch with me, because I would love to partner with you on some stories.
Yes.
Get the word out about the organization and what you're doing. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to also get some of these cannabis companies to come advertise with you and have them put some information. Listen, honey, it goes both ways. Listen, we want to pour into you, and you're going to highlight our businesses, but we're going to also challenge our cannabis companies if you're willing to receive them, because sometimes in cannabis we get the whole, no, we can't touch that. But if you're willing to receive them as companies that are looking and prioritizing their opportunity of creating these supplier diversity programs, and they want to advertise with you, yes, I would love to make sure we get you connected with that as well.
Love it. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, listen, it's Friday.
Yes.
Hey, listen, you ain't got to go home, but we're going to get up out of here. Go enjoy your Friday. Be blessed. Take care of your family. Do all the things that you need to do to just kind of woosah over the weekend. Start fresh on Monday. We're going to get this. Whatever is out there, it is meant for you just as much as it's meant for the next person. And just know, here at Minorities for Medical Marijuana, we want to make sure that you thrive, that you grow, that we pour into you, and make sure you just pay it forward. As you grow, make sure the person behind you has an opportunity to grow as well. We will see you the first Friday of September with our new director and our new host. So I will not be here because Brian will be running this train right here.
Hey,
we will see you in September. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tanya. You guys take care.
Bye-bye.